11/22/63 is not only a Stephen King novel, but also now a Hulu miniseries. I enjoyed both very thoroughly, and if you haven't read and or seen it, I suggest watching the show first, then reading the book. And this isn't going to be spoiler-free, there's going to be spoilers all over the place. So if you haven't done either of the things that this the show and or the book, do that and then watch this. I don't care if it takes you a month or weeks, whatever. Fucking do it. That was really abrasive of me, and I'm sorry. Anyway, let's get into it. There are a lot of changes from the book, as usual with anything that's been adapted into film. But some of them just don't make sense to me. There are things that I believe should have stayed the same because it didn't make sense to change them. For example, they changed the main character's alter ego from George Amberson to Jake Amberson, and it was supposed to be more of a shocker to everybody who found out Jake was his real name and not George when that happens later in the story. So it just didn't make too much sense that they changed that. It makes it seem like it's way too easy for him to be caught using the same first name. So you'll notice right off the bat that it's going to be a little different because it starts with Harry's story, which is a great way to start it. It kind of sets the tone a little bit of part of what Jake is gonna do, you know. That's in the beginning of the story somewhere. It's not right at the beginning, though, I don't believe. Though he does talk about not being a crying man, and that the story made him cry, and that's kinda how we get a feel for how this character is gonna be. But that's not really... They don't really address that in the show too much. They just kind of have Harry telling his story, and he's just like, wow, that was really good, Harry, blah, you know, that whole thing. James Franco, by the way, did a great job as Jake. I had no problems with him portraying the character at all. I think he suited it really well. I had no idea how to picture him when I was reading it. Now, James Franco's face kind of matches it in my head now. Give or take a couple differences. The differences with Al in the beginning, where, like, for example, he's there signing his divorce papers, which took place earlier in the book, in a flashback in the book, and then Al walks to the back and comes back old. That's way different, and, like, that's just to save time. I understand that. That's no big deal. I just thought it was a little odd that it was like, bam, you gotta do this for me right now. And, like, there's no pretext, you know? It's just strange to me, I guess, that it happens so fast like that. And again, to save time, they made it so that he only goes once, he only comes back once. In the book, he does it, he goes, like, 2 or 3 times before starting on his Kennedy mission. And he meets Sadie super early, and, like, there's a thing with George de Mohrenschildt super early. There's just so much different that happens way earlier and that wasn't in the book at all, that just things like that just don't make too much sense to me, where they just throw it in for the sake of throwing it in. Another weird change is that they changed Harry's hometown from Derry, Maine to Holden, Kentucky. I don't understand why they changed that either. It doesn't really matter if that's different. But one of the changes that I did like was the fact that Bill, who in the book was more of a... he wasn't a villain, per se. He was just... It was during George/Jake's mission to stop Frank Dunning that he meets Bill way early into Derry. And he's not a kid. He's an older guy. And same backstory. Dunning killed his sister. But I think it was his little sister, not his older sister. Things like that. Just that change. It's not bad. I like Bill's character when he's first joining up with Jake, and they live in Dallas together. And that whole arc was really cool. But I think they could have kept it the same just so we could get more Jody. They didn't really stress that he was living in Jody and making a life for himself in Jody. Which would have driven more of the point when he had to go back to his own time, like when he had to reset at the very end. Spoiler, again, this isn't spoiler free. It would have driven more of a like, ow, you had a whole life there sort of thing, instead of, oh, you just had a girlfriend or whatever. Which, again, Sadie was perfectly cast. I feel like she should have been a little taller and a little clumsier, like she was, but no, just the girl was really pretty. So yeah. Moving on, let me think here. Oh, the whole Deke thing. Deke is a dick in the show. Like in the book, he's more of a friend for a long time. Compared to in the show, he's just kind of a dick, and I don't think it makes too much sense. Ms. Mimi passes away about a year after he gets to Jody. And then there's another character named Miss Ellie, who kind of is written out of the show, but that's another change I just don't really get. I also don't think that Miss Mimi was supposed to be black. It's no big deal that she is. I could care less. They just had to change some of the character interactions because of it, and it just didn't make too much sense there. While Jake, I think it's to show that Jake, because he's from the future and racism isn't as prominent, well, or at least I would hope it's not as prominent, that's why I think that's part of the reason they did that, is just to show that Jake's he's a good guy. He doesn't give a shit that she's black or anything like that. He's gonna help her out and be her friend, whatever. Of course, they had to update the time he's from to 2016 because the show takes place in 2016. But the book starts a couple years earlier, which is another thing they did to save time. In the book, it starts in 1950. I want to say 1958. And in the show, it's obviously 1960, and he's supposed to be gone for 5 years, not 3. No big deal. That's just, again, to save time. But there's just so much. I guess it'd be called filler if they put it into the show, but it would have been satisfying filler. You didn't even have to show all of it. Just so much, like him getting started, things like that. I don't know. It was just so fast paced in the beginning that I feel like they left a lot out just so they could focus more on the Lee Harvey Oswald stuff and, changes for time, I guess. But if they would have made it 12 episodes instead of 8, they probably could have gotten more in there. Just little nitpicks and suggestions, I guess. So I'm going to wrap this up. Give me your thoughts on the show and or book, because I actually did love both. Just a couple changes here and there to the show from the book that I thought were weird. And if you sat through all this and haven't read or watched either, do yourself a favor, watch the show, then read the book, because the changes won't be as jarring to you, I guess. I think, again, we get more detail through the book than we do with the show, and that's always to be expected. I'm not bashing on the show. I did really love the show. So again, leave your thoughts in the comments, telling me how wrong I am, probably, or how right I am if you agree, You can also hit me up on my Twitter page, at Dibblerulez, obviously. And I think that's going to wrap up this video. Give it a like if you enjoyed it. Share it around if you have friends who might enjoy me talking about this particular series. And I will see you guys whenever I make another video. Speaking of other videos, I wanted to address that. I know most of you saw, if you actually follow my stuff, you saw the Code Lyoko update April Fool's video. I'm not sorry about that, first of all. I wanted to make an April Fool's video, and I was like, I was going to actually sit in front of the camera and start to talk, and then something would happen. But I figured it worked better with just the opening, and, yeah, whatever. a real update right here at the end of this video real quick. I am still in the scripting process. I didn't script this video because I can't articulate my thoughts into text as well as just talking sometimes, and other times it's the other way around. I don't like the way the script's turning out. So, well, actually, the very beginning of the script is done. I have about a page and a half, which is probably the first, 2 minutes. So I have 8 minutes left to write. I'm having a little trouble figuring out some character stuff that I want to happen. I am still looking for a team to back me up on this. If anybody's interested in helping me out with Code Lyoko Abridged, other than voices, because I always get voice requests, people wanting to help out with voices, which, I mean, I'll set up an audition eventually for, 2 or 3 characters that I need voices for. That'll be coming out maybe summertime. But if you want to help me out with the writing, because that's what's taking me the longest, that's why the first episode is 6 years old, something like that now, and the second one's just now being worked on, because I've written a couple drafts of this script, and I get to a point where I'm just I don't know where to go from here. So, again, I need a little bit of help writing, so if you're interested in parody writing, and you are a fan of my Code Lyoko Abridged and or just want to help me out, hell, send me a message either through Twitter or my Gmail, which is not that hard to figure out. It's just this channel name at Gmail. And I also have a Facebook page you can check out, which is facebook.com/Dibblerulez. All those things are outlets for you to be able to talk to me. I will respond to anything. So that's it for the Code Lyoko update, the real Code Lyoko update. I hope you enjoyed my 11/22/63 rant, and I will see you later.
Well, life is sweet.